There we go. Welcome, everyone. Today, we have a guest who's a Amazon SEO consultant. He's the founder of an organic SEO and Amazon marketing agency based in the UK, specializing in ranking products within Amazon and Google in some of the most difficult niches in the world. We have Tom Buckland. How's it going, Tom?
Hey, not bad, thanks. How you doing?
Very good. So let everybody know who you are and who's Tom Buckland.
Sure. So, yes, I'm an SEO consultant turned agency owner. Originally started out doing freelance SEO consulting for Google. And as the business grew, we branched out, hired employees, and now we do a lot of sort of higher level agency work for some medium to larger size business, primarily organic marketing through Google and Amazon. So our Amazon division is based off of the Amazon SEO consultant site. That's where the majority of our leads come through from. And then we just do a lot of testing and talking with different people and just try and give some really good information on the site as well. Some content, how to generate better reviews, rank, obviously, and then just how to build an Amazon business. That's like the main side of that division. And then we have a link building division and a technical SEO division in-house as well.
Nice, nice. So how did you get into Amazon?
Amazon was a bit of a different one. A while ago, I think like most people, you just run into like an ad maybe, or I think I probably ran into a Jungle Scout piece of content or something like that. And then you just start researching and it all seems too good to be true. And then you try and launch something and you fail. And then you kind of work out that it's not as easy as it seems. And then you just go search hole and you start learning about what actually works. And a lot of the people who are quieter are usually the ones that know what they're doing a little bit more. So we picked up some really good information and we just started testing. That was probably the biggest thing, I'd say. A lot of people just blindly follow what a lot of guru style people say. And then at least you get an answer either way and you haven't lost thousands. You might have lost a few dozen units in giveaways or whatever, but at least you haven't put yourself in a hole. That was the main thing when things started to turn. And then we added the Amazon marketing division to the agency as well, based on all these sort of case studies and tests that we found. And then people seem to like the results, so it's all good.
So you're still a seller today. You support other sellers and you also sell yourself, right?
Yeah. So we go down the more, do a lot more acquisition now. So we try and have, essentially take the hard part out. So we're rubbish at product development and branding and all of that. So we only do the marketing side of it. So if we can find a brand that already has really good standings and, 30, 40, 100 good reviews, and then it just takes that lag time off the front. And then we can come in, we can build out the marketing plan, the products individually, and we just get a faster ROI that way. Obviously, it's a little bit more expensive to buy the business, but it's where our skill set lies rather than the product development and product research side of things.
Are you looking at only private label businesses, or would you consider, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and wholesale?
Yeah, it's just private label, mainly because we just want to build the brands out. So we also rank the websites and everything as well. Just trying to build a proper brand instead of individual products, I guess, is the main thing. Tough thing to do, but I think that's where the long-term value is. Amazon is quite saturated nowadays. So if you can sort of build out a brand, it does really help.
Nice. And Tom, since you were doing SEO before Amazon, like Google and stuff, is that very different?
Yeah, so I mean, Amazon and Google are pretty different at the moment. We've done a few posts for a few different people recently, and we've talked about how Amazon's algorithm looks a little bit like Google's from like 2010.
Yes.
So, I mean, the way they're going, I think there's going to be a lot of updates around quality metrics. So removing things that seem like, obviously reviews are not a lot harder now. We're seeing stick rate of reviews go down massively, and we're seeing, fake reviews kind of get out of the marketplace a little bit more, or it's just becoming a lot harder. So I think that'll continue. But obviously Google is on-page and links, and Amazon is on-page and sales. But in both, that second metric, or that second decisive factor of links or sales, is just far greater. So in Amazon, if you don't generate sales, you're not going to rank. But how those sales are generated they're not all created equal, is what we kind of say. So if they come through from PPC, or they come through from external traffic, or they come through from organic search via a specific keyword, they all have different weights in what will move your organic rankings. And that's just from testing. That's what we found, that essentially, if you generate 100 sales from one medium and 100 sales from another, you won't have the same ranking improvement for both. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. It does sense, and I didn't think of it that way. So if I'm on my PPC campaigns and I'm paying for Bluetooth speaker, it doesn't have the same weight as if somebody did actually organic typed in and bought that product.
100%, yeah.
Okay, which one is organic is stronger?
Yeah, generally speaking.
Yeah. So
there's something called a keyword focused sale. That's what we sort of coined it as. That's when someone searches your primary keyword, they find your product, and they essentially buy it. So an organic search completion. If you get a lot of those, then obviously within an algorithm, that's going to be flagged as this product is relevant for this term. It's just kind of obvious when you think about it, but that's why that ranking improvement happens a lot more than, say, if you were to drive external traffic straight to a URL, or even PPC. PPC does have specific terminology as well. So if it does purchase through Bluetooth speaker, you are going to get an increase in rankings for that term, but it's not going to be as drastic as if it was an organic sale.
Nice. So when I send external traffic, for example, to my super URL or the storefront URL, when we're doing these giveaways, does that rank as organic?
Still helps, but it's not as effective. So what we talk about is the ROI. Like, back in the day, 3-4 years ago, you could just sales to anything and you'd rank. Yeah. But now it's getting a lot more difficult. And although discounted sales still rank, in my opinion, it's not, for the amount you have to spend through, the services, if you use Viral Launch or any of the other ones, and obviously you lose the unit cost itself, it's just not worth it anymore. You're going to be essentially spending a couple of grand or 3-4K to rank, not that great. So we kind of recommend going for full price sales where possible. And if you can, just drive a bunch of organic traffic through a keyword. If you can't, so if you don't have the facility to, then I would say external traffic, but then try and get those super URLs in as well, because that does have a little bit more than just driving it to a product page.
Nice. And then there was something I always wanted to know. It's the impact of the keyword itself, the way it's written. For example, let's say wireless Bluetooth speaker versus Bluetooth speaker wireless.
Yeah.
The way the client typed it, does that have any weight on the way I have it on, say, my title?
Yeah, so 100% has weight for keyword focused sales. So if you did a split test and you said, okay, wireless Bluetooth speaker or Bluetooth speaker wireless, and you ran just one, then the other one would increase slightly, but this one would increase massively. So you would see that, you'd notice that. In terms of in the title, what we found is obviously it's one of the largest on-page factors, especially now that search terms have changed. I really don't like the new search term build out, but whatever. That as well, if you have your exact match keyword in a title, in a phrase match, so essentially the 3 terms in the order that you want them, that's going to have a little bit more weight than if you have them just in the title. But it's not as massive as a keyword focus sale.
Yeah. You know how Amazon always tells us that you don't need to put commas when you're putting keywords in your back end. did you ever try to do any testing with or without commas to see if that would make a difference?
Yeah, it's really actually just because Amazon don't, especially nowadays when you have such a short amount of terms you can put in. We tried to test it, but we wouldn't have the update go live at the right time to track it. So it's not something we'd be able to sort of split test yes or no. So honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Yeah, gotcha. It's probably irrelevant to what the results would be anyway.
Yeah, hopefully it would be negligible, but it's nice to know sometimes.
Cool. So as for the Amazon rankings, everybody wants to rank on the first page, and there's only a few that can make it. Obviously, there's only a few positions in each page. So what's the secret?
The secret is, so what we tell our clients is, if you have a 6-month marketing budget and you say you have, let's say you're a startup company and you have $1,000 a month to spend for 6 months, spend it all in 2 weeks. Because what you can do is you can drive all that external traffic. You can spike your sales velocity. We'll call it bestseller rank, even though that's not officially a ranking factor, but it's just easier to talk about like that. So you can spike your bestseller rank, and if all this, and then turn your PPC up for that 2-week period or 1-week period if you're ambitious, and then the sales velocity that you'll generate will be enough to rank on page 1. So if you spend 6K on Facebook and AdWords, for example, in a 14-day period, and you get up to 10, 20 sales a day, instead of spending $1,000 a month and getting up to maybe 2 a day, that's going to be enough to push you to page 1, especially if you're using things like super URLs and things like that. Another thing, obviously make sure all your on-page and your keyword research is done. That's just a given. And then finally, if you have a network, I guess, or just friends and family, even though Amazon sort of hates that, if you can get them to search a specific keyword and buy your product, that's going to have massive amounts of movement as well. But the main thing I would say is just do everything in a short period of time.
Okay. So yeah, sales velocity, we know it's very important for them, I guess, right? So there was something you mentioned there that it hit something, and trying to figure out what it was. And I think it was related to, okay, there we go. So external traffic. If I do campaigns, let's say Facebook campaigns with external traffic, where should I send my traffic to? Should I send it directly to, let's say, amazon.com/myASIN, or to my storefront with my best keyword attached? Or
yeah, so I mean, I like that, but it doesn't convert as well. So that's the kind of conversation that you have with your marketing team or yourself. Essentially, if you do that, it's not going to convert as well, but you get a bit more sort of ranking benefit. So if you have that keyword in there in a super URL or a storefront setup, then it is going to help a little bit more than just a shared URL style keyword completion. But then we obviously get into the point that if you send cold traffic from Facebook directly to an Amazon page, that doesn't convert all that well. So that's something to remember as well. I think it really just does depend on what product you're selling, what price point, and how you're targeting. So if it's cold traffic, I would probably send it through some sort of funnel, some sort of offer or something like that.
yeah,
We don't do a massive amount of that, but there's a lot of softwares that help lead pages and click funnels and everything like that is really good. But honestly, if nice.
Yeah, funnel hacker.
So yeah, click funnels definitely then. And yeah, like that stuff works really well. But again, we kind of try and stay to our speciality of organic rankings only. If we try to branch out into, we build an Amazon business, then it gets very, very difficult very quickly. So we say to clients, look, like drive as much outside traffic as you can, because you have to generate reviews and sales at the end of the day, regardless of rankings. But be aware that cold traffic is very rarely going to get a positive ROI on the front end. If you can, amazing. But most of the time, we're not good enough to. So
So, Tom, I think it was, I don't know, was it the end of 2016 or 17 when we had access to the enhanced brand content? I think it was 17, right? And until then, we had the 2,000 character description we could put, and we still can.
Yeah.
And I remember at least at the beginning when that happened, my keywords that went into the enhanced brand content page were not getting indexed at least as quick as the other ones.
Interesting.
What do you find today? The 2,000 character description or EVC?
We haven't found a massive amount of difference between both, to be honest.
Okay.
EVC does obviously help from a UX and conversions point of view,
Mhm.
but it really does depend on what you're selling. Because a lot of the time, if your price point is below, say, £30, $30, people aren't really going to read the enhanced brand content all that much. They're going to look at reviews, they're going to look at title and price, images, and make a decision. So like, I can't remember the stat, but it's like 85% of people just look at 3 metrics, which is price, images, and something else as well, reviews. And that's it. And then they make their buying decision. So what I'd say is we still like enhanced brand content over the normal description just because the description looks shitty. But we haven't split tested both, to be honest. So I wouldn't want to give you an answer.
Okay. Now I bet now the rank is probably the same, but yeah, at the beginning, the EVC, I would test with one word that nobody else in the world would use, you know, something weird, and I would put it in there. And then at the time, you could do a search by, let's say, number sign, ASIN, and whatever keyword, right, instead of using software. And it wouldn't show up. While if it was in the description, it would. But today, I haven't tested that in a long time.
That may be, I don't know this for sure, but that may be Amazon's lag time in terms of indexing things. So the same thing with Google. If you build a website that doesn't have a lot of authority, then it's going to take a long, long time to get indexed, you know, potentially weeks. If you have a little bit more authority, then your site gets crawled and updated a lot more regularly. And if you have a ton of authority, it's multiple times a day. But that may be it. So if the change you made on, say, day 1 would have been re-indexed on day 5, potentially, because Amazon's algorithm only seems to change every 3 days in terms of rankings. So if you generated, you know, 1,000 keyword focused sales on one day, it would likely take a few days to kick in. We've also seen that doing it on one day doesn't have that massive amount of impact either. So you kind of have to spread it around. So that's just another thing to remember as well.
As for link building, you know, and you do know, Google loves link building, or at least used to love it a lot more. But do you think that's something that's coming to Amazon? And will it work?
In terms of a ranking factor?
Yeah, I mean, from external link building on, you know, from blogs and like Google link building directed to your Amazon listing.
Okay, I get you. So that does still rank the Amazon page in Google itself. So because obviously you're still ranking in Google, it's still links, it's going to rank. In terms of ranking inside Amazon, that's a good question, actually. I'm not sure. It may make sense, but I think they're going to go down the quality metrics and improved content route first. So if your listing looks like crap and, you know, your images are rubbish and your title doesn't really make sense, I think that those are the ones that's going to get punished. And the reason why is for like the Chinese sellers. I think Amazon is going to try and get away from quantity because they have so much quantity coming in now. Yeah. They don't struggle for demand. So if they can improve quality, then they're going to have a lot higher stick metrics. So they're going to have people who potentially only use Amazon, you know, maybe once a month to buy something. If they're seeing a lot of crappy products when they're looking for something very specific, then they're going to be like, oh, well, it's not here. Whereas if you have fewer products, but they're a lot more sort of quality focused, that tends to be better. But again, it's Amazon, so who knows? They'll probably just buy someone.
Exactly. So, you know, up until a certain point, or maybe still until now, doing e-commerce outside of Amazon, we could get copywriter to write our titles, and just because we get better conversions if they were written professionally. While on Amazon, the number one priority, at least for a lot of people that I know, was being found. So the title didn't always make sense. It had all the keywords in there, sometimes just, with no comma separation, nothing, just keywords in there. So you're saying now they're going to look at it as, does this title make sense? And that will be a help, I guess, for the one that does make sense. Is that it?
Yeah, so an interesting thing, we spoke to a Amazon, or somebody who used to work at Amazon's department about 6 months ago, and they used a few examples that kind of go against the trend. So it was essentially, I think the keyword was like ladies' bikes or something high volume. And you'd look at the title and it would be brand name, ladies' bikes, and nothing else. And you'd think, well, that hasn't been optimized properly, but they rank first for absolutely everything. So then you have to take it with a grain of salt. And this is why I think on page is super important, but from an 80-20 of marketing, it's probably only 10% of the algorithm. So you're better off, obviously do both, but you're better off spending money generating sales velocity, because then you're going to rank for everything across the board. So if you generate keyword focused sales for something that isn't in your title, you're still going to rank. Now, you're not going to rank as well, but you are still going to rank. And that's why you see some of these sellers that have been around for years and probably have never heard of softwares or keyword research or whatever. But they still do, 100K a month or 200K a month just from a couple of products because they got on early, they have a good product. And just because the listing kind of is a bit rubbish, it doesn't actually make too much of a difference because the sales velocity is so high. And we've seen this multiple times. We've had clients come through and they're doing 150K a month and they're like, I didn't write my title, I got a VA to do it. And then you're just like, what? But it works. So, it's not one of those things that you can say they're doing badly because they're doing really high volumes in a lot of cases.
Exactly. I think it's maybe due to the conversion per keyword, meaning if they're converting when somebody searches the Bluetooth speaker, they're converting and they've been converting for many years. I guess that makes that relevant to the listing, so they stay indexed. That's just my assumption, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And the annoying thing is it's very difficult to split test an individual variable with Amazon because there's so much else going on. If we want to split test just say external traffic, we can't because we're still going to generate organic sales. And although we can kind of make recommendations, there's never a black and white, yes, this definitely works, and yes, it doesn't work. It's always on some sort of spectrum, which makes it really difficult. And it makes a lot of claims that people say just straight up wrong as well. They're probably not trying to be, naive, but when you see that people are still doing 100% discounted products directly to a product URL, it's like, well, you need to track this stuff. You need to have some sort of keyword tracking software on and just see yeah, we might be wrong, but from our split tests, we're not. So just save yourself some money and test everything you can do, or at least track it. If you're not going to test it, track it.
Yeah, no, that's something I meant to ask you. And what is something that you see people doing wrong? And we'll get to in a bit. But that is actually something that I often see people that do something because they believe it's working, but they have no statistics to measure if it actually is. It's just, I believe it's working. And
yeah,
that's one of the things that it kind of makes me sad. But what is something that you see people doing wrong often, and you hear it in other podcasts, people doing this, and I'm like, well, that's not right. But what is it? What's it to you?
There's a couple of things. One that kind of is an interesting one is inventory. People are still running out of inventory. I don't think they understand how much that hurts you. So even brands that we've been looking at for acquisitions, they would have massive peaks and troughs, and even go in loss for a couple of months. And, you'd ask what was going on here. And they just say, oh, we ran out of inventory, as if it was like a casual thing. But doing that just really hurts you, because obviously your sales volume goes to zero.
Mhm.
So, and you have to stop everything. You have to stop PPC. So even your fixed costs are going to hurt you as well. So I would just say one of the things is, if you're doing larger volumes and say you order in from China, so you have like maybe a 60, 90 day lag time or order time, just get a third party warehouse and just have some stock sitting in there so you don't run out of inventory. And yeah, from a cash flow point of view, it's going to be a little bit more heavy. So that's why we only recommend it for larger sellers generally. But if you have an order in processing or in manufacturing on sea and in a warehouse and in Amazon, then you've got 4 batches. So you're very unlikely to run out of stock. Obviously, for starting capital reasons, you can't do that for a lot of cases. But once you get past that point, that would be kind of the main one. Because inventory management software is great, but if you spike sales, they become, meaningless very quickly. If you go from 1 sale a day to 50 sales a day, then suddenly you haven't got 200 days, you have 4. So, that's just one that we see quite a bit as well.
I love that one because it happens so often. And one of the ones that I used to see mentioned in many podcasts, I don't know who came up with this idea, but it must have been some guru a few years ago, that for you not to run out of stock, if you're about to run out of stock, double or triple your price so people stop buying it. And it's going to decrease your conversion. It's going to decrease your sales velocity anyway.
Yeah.
Do you find any benefit in doing that?
I mean, I suppose it makes sense to increase it slightly, but what I always say is you don't know where that price, demand and supply line is anyway. If you did, then yeah, it'd be great. We could just slowly increase up the supply and demand line. That's perfect economy, but we don't know that. And a lot of the time, if you bought something for, say, $15, £15, and it was okay, it was good, you'd be like, okay, fine, I'm not going to leave a review, but I'm not bothered, I'll use it a few times. If you bought something for 25, 30, and it wasn't so good, you might leave a negative review, and you might be like, oh, well, this is not worth, how many times have you seen it's broken or wasn't worth the price as an Amazon 1 or 2 star review? And that's going to hurt you so much more in the long term, because you try and remove those negative reviews, it's an absolute nightmare. It's nigh on impossible, and you can do it, but it's really time consuming and expensive. So it's not something that we recommend.
Yes, absolutely. I had the perfect example. I had a product that I was selling for a while, and the sales were getting higher and higher. And I figured, if sales are growing this much, maybe I can increase the price. And when and reviews are very hard to get. Everybody knows that, very hard to get. And I have a nice follow-up sequence with email that, at first I don't ask for anything, just offer them how to use this and stuff. And then if they reply, I ask for a review. And I was getting very, very few, between 3-6% would leave a review. After I increased the price point and they go past the $30 mark, I started getting 3-star reviews more often. Not 1 or 5, but it was 3, because it was like, the product may not be worth this much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they started coming in organically.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Perfect. So tell me, Tom, what do you think about FBA now in the future, 2019, 2020? Are we here to stay, or are we still going strong, or what?
Yeah, 100%. We actually do the exact opposite of what everyone says. So we look to, obviously I said, we look to do acquisitions more than start from scratch, only because it's so, like you said, it's so difficult to get those reviews to start. Yeah. And it's so difficult to build a product that, there's all these softwares that help you find, less competitive, high profit products. But they're becoming far and few between. So what we tend to do instead is look at things that are more awkward. So I guess with that is, everybody used to preach about between $10 and $50, make sure it's lightweight, small, kind of go the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
Mainly just because if you have a look at the listings of the things that are above, say, $200 or above, say, 10 kilograms in weight, what you can find is a lot of sellers that are just business owners. So they don't really, they don't have time to research Amazon optimization. They don't really understand sales velocity. They just put the product there. If they make a few sales for Amazon, great. If they don't, they still sell it from their furniture store or their mirror shop or something. But when you say to someone, oh yeah, we ordered 1,000 mirrors from China, they look at you like you're mental. Like they're going to smash when you ship them over, and then you're going to lose whatever, 10K fee, which is always a possibility, but the amount of saturation and competition is a lot lower. And that's something that we just see. I mean, about 40-50% of the leads we get through from the site are in the supplement industry. And that's like 40-50 leads a month. And that just shows me that is getting silly saturated now. And it's so competitive that we wouldn't go into that.
It's absolutely super competitive. I have a couple clients that are in the supplement niche, and it's absolutely crazy. But I do love something you said there, and I apply that same rule. It's going out of that shoebox size and stuff. And when sourcing products, there's I have a scale where I give points to the product. And if it's oversized, it will gain extra points instead of losing.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
If it goes outside of what everybody else is doing, I give it an extra point, and while everybody else deducts points. So I tend to source products that are different than other people as well. That's very good.
Yeah. I think the main thing is just building a brand nowadays. So like it really frustrates me because some of the leads we still get in, they'll have a brand new product that is exactly the same as a competitor, but their competitor will have a lower price point and way more reviews. And it's like, we can't perform miracles. Like, no consumer will look at something that has less social proof at a higher price point and be like, yeah, I'm going to buy that. This is when it's the exact same product, not even, slight differentiations.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the one. The other one is we work with a few brands that have a really nice model in terms of their branding is very clean and they targeting the premium market. That's something that I think is going to expand on Amazon. So a lot of the products on Amazon, it's obviously quite a price orientated market. So most people are, basically fighting price wars, but there are a few that are doing the premium model very well. So, you'll have a supplement that is 4 times the price of the same one or the same amount. But because of the branding and their target audience, they've done it really, really well. And it's just, we've seen them grow from 0 to basically 35K a month now. And it's one of the reasons is their branding is just really, really strong. So yeah, that I think is going to open up as well. So people are going to be less like, okay, I'm going to go to Amazon and make a buy decision in 20 seconds and more look for something a little bit more. Yeah, that's what I think might happen.
And when you're working on your branding outside of Amazon, which is, I believe, very important as well, until you get a strong position on Amazon, I normally recommend people redirecting their traffic to Amazon, because you're going to make more profit on your site, but until you gain that sales velocity on Amazon, everything you can get and send to Amazon is going to be beneficial to you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree pretty much. If you have the budget, I'd say do both. If you don't, then focus on Amazon, just because there is going to be a point. I don't think it's in the next few years. A lot of people are talking about how every opportunity is going to be filled within a couple of years. I don't think we're there yet, but I do think in sort of 5-6 years, the whole I'm going to start an FBA business isn't going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been going on for quite a few years now, and a lot of other people have tried it, failed, and then they've gone on to Shopify dropshipping or whatever the next shiny object was.
Yes.
But I think it just all comes down to building a brand again, because Amazon gives you a platform, but that's all it is. So you still need good products, and then you need to do everything right. But once you've done everything right, if you have good products, then you're there to stay, rather than having to always fight on prices or give away 1,000 units a month or anything like that. So that's what I would probably say: build a brand first, and then have a product that has some USPs, and then go into, okay, how are we going to expand this off of Amazon? We just do organic marketing, which takes a lot longer on Google at the same time. So that's how we approach it. We say, okay, we'll get a faster ROI on Amazon and then reinvest that into the site.
Exactly. So before I let you go, Tom, what is one tool that you use that you cannot live without?
There's a few, but I think the one has to be Ahrefs. Give them a shout because they're amazing from a link building point of view.
Yes.
That's what we used on a hourly basis in-house. In terms of Amazon, I'm still a real fan of Helium 10. I really like their stuff. And we do a lot of work with Feedback Wiz as well. So they're pretty sharp. And then just get yourself a keyword tracker as well, something, because you need to know what's going on. And yeah, that's probably my 3 instead of 1.
No, that's great. And it's fantastic because I do use all 3. Helium 10 is Manny Coates' software. And then you said Feedback Wiz?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's the one I use as well. I also have Feedback Genius, just because I already had it since 2015, but I continue to use it. And Ahrefs is something that Neil Patel absolutely loves. He mentions it in every one of his podcasts, and I use that as well.
Yeah,
so,
they're a big player. There's not something on the market that is an Ahrefs for Amazon yet. There's nothing even close. But from an organic SEO point of view, that's the only thing you need nowadays. That's kind of a not a gap in the market, but there's hundreds of these Amazon SaaS companies. I don't think there's one anywhere near that yet, but that is a model that we're trying to build, but we don't have the development capacity really. I think if somebody could build that would be sort of go into a market leader position with something like that. There's lots of softwares around finding new products, but there's not around reverse engineering how competitors ranked, whereas that would be very, very valuable.
Yes, that's and it's so hard though that Amazon, they keep most of the information that they can to themselves, right? So they don't freely give us all the information, and which makes it hard. But at the same time, when things are that hard, it makes it, you want it more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Google doesn't either. So there are ways, but I think Amazon recently blocked the API, or however people used to get keyword search volumes as well. I read somewhere about that, so that's a bit frustrating.
Yes. So right now, the closest to the reality of the keyword search volume was Helium 10 from what I hear, and even that is not 100% real, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Tom, tell people where they can find you.
Sure. So I mean, the only social media I use is Twitter, really. That's just Tom Buckland SEO. And then websites, you can get us at hqseo.co.uk and amazonseoconsultant.com. Perfect.
I'll have those on the show notes. And Tom, I want to thank you very much for being here. This has been gold, and we may have to do this again someday.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks for subscribing to Fail Fast Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review and visit failfastpodcast.com for show notes, Quin's social media, or even to tell us your story.